But $1,000 was just like an amount of money that I had never seen before. So I was like, what the fuck? They're gonna give me $1,000? Like, I'm in there.
Yeah, because like you said, you had no job there for like 8 months to a year, something like that. So like it wasn't always an obvious path. And I think there's one point you had like $150 in your bank account or something like that, and you took the test and were called to be a firefighter, right?
Yeah. Well, that happen? So those are two separate things. So I had $150 in my bank account. I had 100. I remember this because I got paid $1,000 to go to Cortland, which is a college, and they have this thing called the Spring Fling, which is like they have a concert and they have this and that. So during the day, they wanted me to set up like a table and just have like a meet and greet, which was like that. It like kills me to think that I did that. But $1,000 was just like an amount of money that I had never seen before. So I was like, what the fuck? They're gonna give me $1,000? Like, I'm in there. So yeah, we went and it was great. We went to the concert. We like picked up a few of my friends on the way there because they went to Syracuse. They went to Cortland. One of my friends went to Cortland. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I had that $1,000 and that lasted me through like the summer basically. And then I remember it being $150. And that's when I got the job at Elite Daily because they hit me up and they were like, come to this shoot. We'll pay you $150. And I was like, that's literally, yeah, like I'm for sure coming to that. And then they offered me a job right after we shot the video. And I was like, damn, I was like, fuck yeah. Like, I definitely want to be a part of this. And that ended up being like, the reason why I was able to continue making content was because of that day and because of that job, because they were like, we'll pay you, you come in here. And it was cool to be able to like, to have a job that like you're going into Manhattan for, which was always just sort of like a weird dream of mine, which is like weird because I didn't want to work in an office. I didn't want to do the suit and tie thing. Like that just wasn't in the cards for me. Um, but I had this fascination with Manhattan, and I used to take these weird long drives to the Long Island City piers, um, and just stare at Manhattan. And I don't even know, like it had an aura for me. So it was very cool to be able to get that job. And it's like, I got to take the train into Manhattan for this job where I'm like editing and doing video. Like I am completely unqualified for this. I didn't go to school for this. And I'm just like figuring it out along the way. And they're just kind of like trusting me. And, it ended up, working out amazing. And it was just really lucky for all these things to kind of fall, into my lap in the way that they did. You just have to be prepared for that opportunity, which I was like dying for. So I was super prepared.
So how close then pre Elite Daily were you to quitting YouTube? Because I was like, you had a point where you called your brother on the phone saying you think you were going to quit YouTube. It's like, at what point was it? Like, how close did you come?
I think that conversation with my brother Thomas was like, uh, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it was very close. Like definitely within a month of each other, of that conversation of being like, I'm going to give it one last go and, whatever. Because my oldest brother was like a role model for me. And he's like a very good role model. And he like, you know, would always give me these good advice. And I didn't want to let him down. And because I knew if I let him down, then like other people would be looking at me like, yeah, what the fuck? So that's what I told him. I was just like, I'm not crazy here. Like, I'm not going to do this until I'm 25 making $0 and then try to figure out my life. Like, I'm going to go back. And I started signing up for classes at LaGuardia College over here. And, yeah, then I think a couple of weeks later, they hit me up to be in that video, and I just was working there for the next like 2 or 3 years.
That's wild. And it's like, because you said you were underqualified. So not only did you have a job in the city, but you had to go in and develop the skills that would then benefit your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah. So I mean, and how that happened was I was not qualified for the job, but also like there wasn't really a specific job yet. Like I knew how to edit enough to do whatever they needed, because they didn't need anything crazy yet. So the company was growing as I was growing. I got there, I was probably employee 28, and then the video team alone. At that time, the video team was 3 people. It was me, my friend Tyler, and a cameraman, and that was it. And so every day I would come in. I only work part time. I would get in at like noon and then leave at 5 or some shit. I don't even remember. but and they would pay me $400 a week. And I was like, bro, what? I was like, I thought they were going to pay me $200. They gave me $400. I was like, this is amazing. So I felt like rich at that time because I remember when I had like $2,000 in my bank account, I was like, it's like I'm fucking paid now. Um, but yeah, so I was learning, from this kid Tyler's very, very good. He has his own production company now. So he's very good at like getting shit done and like this and that. I learned from the cameraman as well. Then as the company grew, we hired a guy who actually worked there before I did for a little bit, but then ended up leaving. But then he came back and he's like my mentor to this day. If I have any sort of question involving cameras, about production, lighting, anything, I always call him. And his name's Greg Parker, and he has a company called Top Notch Cinema. And he taught me everything basically. So I requested to sit next to him, and then I would always be asking him questions and always like really trying to learn a lot from him while working there. Because he was like, when he started editing shit, because at that point it was like there was a couple editors, but no one was doing anything astronomical because again, no one needed to do anything astronomical. But then once he came in, like all the quality of video like went up, and I was just seeing him do shit, and I was like, damn, I need to like now I know I'm pathetic. You know what I mean? Like I was like, shit, like now this guy knows what the fuck's going on. So he was able to teach me a lot of things that I still use to this day. And yeah, so I learned a lot from him, and I ended up quitting Elite Daily when I felt like I had reached as much as I could as far as like the knowledge of production and editing and creating content. When I felt like I've reached my intellectual ceiling here, that's when I sort of walked away from it and like pursued my own thing.
And not only that, but you saved up like 40 grand so you would make sure you were safe when you took the jump, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I tell people it was 40 grand because that's what I think it was, but it could have been less. But so I was making money from the YouTube stuff at that time because I had jumped ship, and then I was starting to make money. Nothing like astronomical, but I was making like okay money there, and then probably some other like some random brand deals here and there, and then I think my salary at Elite Daily was like 45,000 or something like that. So, and I was there for I think 2 or 3 years. So I never, and I fucking lived at home, so I didn't spend shit, and like I wasn't like going out and fucking buying. I had no, all I did was create fucking videos. So I didn't really like spend money. So I saved up enough money that I was like, okay, at the very minimum. Also at that time, my channel was like getting more and more popular. So I was like, at the very minimum, I'll have this money and just let it sort of like bleed out slowly. And if it gets really bad, then I'll try and get another job. Either try to get hired here again or try to get a job as like a social media manager. Because if I could prove like I built this channel, clearly I know something about social media. So I was like leaning on that possibility as like a backup plan. But I knew what I had to do, and everything was sort of growing at a certain pace. So I was like, I just need to keep this up, spend more time on it, and whatever. So that was enough for me for a safety blanket to be like, okay, I have this money, but also everything is like going up. So like, I'll just fucking jump ship.
Yeah, because you were close to 1 million, right? When you were still working at Elite Daily?
Yes, yes.
Because it was there, I think you said, not on this podcast, but another one where you were at like a shoot with Elite Daily, and one of the influencers there thought you were there for the shoot as like one of the influencers, but you were actually there as part of the crew.
Yeah, we used to go to LA to shoot this series that I was like the main producer for, called Generation Y, and we would go to LA to shoot with random like influencers and do things like that. And by the way, I'm still learning about this whole thing of like, apparently the people in LA know who I am, people I've never interacted with, but apparently they see me as like, oh, this dude is like an OG. He's been doing it for like, I've never talked to these people. So like, I don't know any of this, it's all like still like news to me. I keep hearing from like random people like, oh yeah, they were talking about you. And I was like, what? I was like, I've never talked to these people. Like I would love to have a conversation with them, but whatever. But there's a kid who like I had known of because he was like popular on Vine at the time. He was in the shoot, and I'm sitting in like the director's chair basically. And I was like, oh, I think you're up next. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. He thought that I was just sitting in the director's chair like a fucking asshole, like as a influencer there, just sitting in the director's chair being a fucking dick. But he got up there, and then I like took out the paper and like went to go ask him like the prompts or whatever. And he was like, wait, what are you doing? And I was like, what? And he's like, wait, you work here? I was like, yeah. He's like, why do you work here? I was like, I don't know how to answer that, dude. Like, I was like, I do the social media stuff, but I have this job, like, and the job was fucking great too. Maybe I would have quit that job if it wasn't so great, but it was like awesome. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of like camaraderie, and it was just great. Like I honestly had a great experience there. It was fucking awesome. So, and I learned so much and made a lot of friends and shit. So I stayed there probably longer than I would have if it sucked. But it was the greatest. So I stayed there for as long as I could and had the most fun that I could. But yeah, it was interesting. So I don't know that I had a million yet or anything like that, but I probably had like 500,000 or something like that. So it was like big enough that I guess people, they get 200,000 now and they fucking move to LA and they call it quits on school and that's it. So I kind of waited.